At KICC the other day, when the current deputy president, Kithure Kindiki, was being sworn in, the president had the audacity to say that the Meru people are very loyal, that Meru ukimtuma afanye kitu, anafanya kwanza alafu atauliza maswali baadaye. Kwamba Meru ukimtuma akate mtu, ukimwambia nikatie huyu, ataenda amkate alafu atakuja kuuliza baadaye, mkubwa nimemkata, nilikuwa namkatia nini? So you tell me that such utterances coming from the head of state are utterances we can condone as the general public. I think the president has been very categorical on how Gachagua was a loose mouth and how Gachagua had a verbal diarrhea of dispensing words left, right and center without thinking critically about what he's saying. I am in no way insulting the president. I am just addressing myself to what the president said. If we can get that from the head of the state, and if that is the standard, how about his MPs? How about his governors and senators? Si watatuaria? Hakuna mahali tutajificha. If the president can say that without remorse, how about Moses Kuria? Si nyinyi mnajua Kuria? How about Oscar Sudi? Si nyinyi mnajua Sudi? How about Atwoli? Si nyinyi mnajua Atwoli? So you tell me if we should condone that as the general public. Hiyo maneno tunafaa tukatae. And I also need to address myself to the current shift in deputy presidents. Some people are happy that the Gachagua has been replaced with Kithure Kindiki. But they do not understand that we've moved from a constitutional deputy president to a vice president. I am telling you here, without mincing words, that Kithure Kindiki is a vice president, not a deputy president. A deputy president, as encapsulated in the Constitution of Kenya, was supposed to be elected with the president as a joint ticket. That is what a deputy president means in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. The current deputy president, Kithure Kindiki, is not a deputy president. He is a vice president because he is appointed by the president, not elected by the people. And I thought the new constitution came to cure the curse of vice presidents. Because as you know, vice presidents have been misused in the past. They have been used as puppets by the president and by the executive, and they've been used to do the government's bidding. And the new constitution attempted to cure that. That a vice president was subordinate to the president, to the point that the president could fire them at the moment they choose, at their behest. And that is what was happening with the vice presidents at the time of Jomo Kenyatta and the time of Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. The vice presidents were dispensable. They could be sacked even after 2 months in office. And Kithure Kindiki is not immune from this. It is very possible that by next year, 2025, Kithure Kindiki will no longer be deputy president in this country. Because Ruto now has a vice president who he can take out of office without an impeachment. Because the current deputy president is an appointee of the president. He is not generally elected by the people. And the president could sack him anytime. I know lawyers will have their take on this, but I'm assuring you that the president can sack the current deputy president possibly without going through an impeachment. Because Kindiki was not elected by the people. He's an appointee of the president. And if we cannot look into such weighty matters, we are losing it as a country. Those cheering in the swearing in of Kithure Kindiki should ask themselves several questions. If we want this country to have a vice president who is dispensable, that will give the president unparalleled powers. In fact, I hate to say it, but it is possible that Ruto will be another despot. With a vice president he can easily take away, and with a legislature that is compromised, and with a judiciary that is not in good standing with the public. Ruto has all the means of power to consolidate power to himself and to rule this country with an iron fist. He has already crushed the opposition. And if he now has a puppet for a vice president, whatever you call a deputy president, he has with him all the powers to run this country as he wishes. We may hate Gachagua. Personally, I hate Gachagua because he does not represent the presidency I want. The same way I detest Gachagua, the same way I loathe Ruto. But Gachagua had a stand. He was abrasive. This other guy is not as abrasive. And you know that. You know Kindiki Kithure is a yes man. And you know Kindiki Kithure is a machete man. Probably a panga man. Si Ruto ashawaambia Meru ni mtu wa kukata. So, it is possible that Kithure Kindiki is a machete man, a panga man, a swordsman. Ule jamaa mwenye atatumwa kumalizana na maadui wa serikali. Both real and imagined enemies of the state. And it speaks to the role Kindiki played during the Gen Z demonstrations. Because during the Gen Z demonstrations, young people were clobbered, young people were abducted, young people were arbitrarily arrested, young people were detained without trial, and they were not served justice. And those abductions continue to this very day. Kithure Kindiki was the CS for Interior. He superintended over the mistreatment of the Gen Z demographic. It is possible that Ruto knows what he is saying. That Kindiki Kithure ni jamaa nikatie huyu anakata. Sinyinyi mnajua how the police mistreated us and how the NIS and DCI mistreated us, and they continue to mistreat us. It is under the supervision of Kithure Kindiki, the current vice president, who you now call deputy president. Please do not be fooled even for a minute. Aya. Nikiongelea mambo ya kanisa. Sisi kama Gen Z, we have slowly lost trust in the church. And this has happened over time. We do not have faith and confidence in the church we have today. And speaking about the church, I'm speaking about the clerics, that is the clergy, and the churchgoers, those that call themselves Christians. I am a Christian myself, but we've lost trust in the church. As years pass, as months pass by, we have almost no confidence in the church we have today. Because the church is another yes guy, another yes person. They are serving the interest of the politicians. And it is despicable that the church, which is supposed to be a voice of reason to those in governance, is in bed with the same government and with the same politicians that are messing up this country. From time immemorial, the church was the core advisor of governments. The church has advised governments all through the times of King David, King Saul, King Solomon to this very day. But the church we have today, especially in this country and in Africa, has lost its moral grounding. And it has chased so many youths from attending these churches because they see the money laundering in these churches. They see churches perpetrating vices and evil. They see churches that are quick to pamper, quick to praise politicians who are stealing and who are engaging in vices in the society. Today, if we are in the church service, myself as a youth leader and another MP who we very well know is in bad books, the church would give him recognition, praise, and acclamation, as opposed to we, the young people, who are a voice of reason, who are incorruptible, and who have shown this country that we can lead. They would possibly deny me speaking time and audience in that church in favor of that MP, that governor, that senator, because he gives huge tithes and he gives good amounts of offerings. They would prefer that MP over me, because most young people do not afford to give the tithes and the offerings these MPs are giving. So that is why they will give them front row seats and they will give them audience and too much time to speak in addressing the congregants. Even though we know that these politicians are corrupt, even though we know these politicians are murderers, even though we know these politicians are prostitutes, Even though we know these politicians are part of the problem, the church should be guiding us against. The church has lost its moral grounding and standing in the society. Because a church that is driven by material things is a church that has lost its course. We have few objective pastors, bishops, and reverends who can speak directly and who can tell truth to power. Who can tell your president, your MP, your senator, your governor, oh wait, you are wrong here. You are overtaxing Kenyans. You are abducting Kenyans illegally. You are oppressing Kenyans. And you are ruling and running this country badly. There are very few men and women of the clock that can tell truth to power. And this is, say, what we are not used to. We are used to the likes of Timothy Njoya and Desmond Tutu and men of the clock who we were used to their sermons and speeches and true messages to those that in government, addressing them and telling them that here you are misleading the country. Here you are running the country badly. You need to fix this and that. We as the church and as the men of clock, we are advising you against this, and we want you to rule the country differently. How many bishops, how many pastors today can tell President Ruto that you are failing this country, that you have already failed this country, and that if you do not change, God will punish you? How many men of the clock are like Elijah, who went against the 400 Baal prophets? How many men of the clock have such strong standpoints? Because the same church took us to the ditch we are in today. Hii kanisa ndo ilipigia huyu Ruto kura, ikampigia debe, ikamkampenia, ikaambia Wakenya huyu jamaa ametumwa na Mungu, is God sent, chagueni huyu jamaa. Hii kanisa ndo imepea huyu Ruto hii kiti na ama MPs wenu wenye wanaibia pesa. Na hii kanisa ndo inawapea audience kila Jumapili kwa kanisa kuongea uongo, kueneza uvumi na kudanganya Wakenya. Hizi kanisa zinapenda pesa kuliko vile zinapenda Mungu. Ni kanisa ngapi zinaweza kataa offering na tithe za hao ma MPs? Waambie hii pesa tunaishuku. Sisi kama kanisa tumekataa. Kama Yesu aliingia kwa temple akafukuza waliokuwa wanafanya biashara kanisani, hii biashara yenye ma MPs wanaleta kanisani, mbona hawa mapasta wasikatae? That tells you there is no true religion in them. Ni pesa wanataka. They are after material things. And that is why we've failed as a country. We've given the church too much precedence, too much importance, and the church has misled us, and we do not want to question the church on why it is misleading us. And until and unless we wake up as Kenyans and realize that the church has misled us and is willing to mislead us because pesa ya wanasiasa ni tamu, tutaendelea kupotea. Kanisa itakataa pesa ya MP, kanisa itakataa pesa ya huyo muuaji, kanisa itakataa pesa ya huyo mwizi, kanisa itakataa pesa ya huyo jamaa wanajua vizuri vile amepotea na pesa ya kanisa. Vile amepotea na pesa ya CDF, vile wanajua amepotea na pesa ya hospitali. Haitakataa. Kanisa za saa hizi zinataka tu pesa. Na inashangaza sana. And unless we wake up as Kenyans and all the church to account, because we are also the church. Kanisa sio building, hata sisi ni kanisa. Kama wewe ni Mkristo, unajua vizuri kanisa ambayo Yesu aliongelea ni sisi kama Wakristo. Kanisa sio hiyo jengo la mawe, hilo jengo la mawe. I would also want to address something different. The government has made measures to reintroduce the finance bill that we rejected in June through 3 tax amendment bills. And it has caught so many people by by a surprise, should I say. We thought that the government has learned its lesson, and the government has realized that the citizens are overburdened and overtaxed, and they are not comfortable with the current tax regime. But it appears the government has not learned anything. The government, through the Treasury CS John Mbadi, who was very opposed, who was strongly opposed to the finance bill, is reintroducing the finance bill through 3 tax amendment bills, I should say. And you would think that John Mbadi, who sounded very rational when he was opposed to the finance bill, would advise the president against introducing new tax bills and tax laws in the same year that the finance bill was rejected. You would think that John Mbadi would be the people's advocate in the current government. But it appears he is speaking the same language as President Ruto and those that are in the executive. They are tone deaf and they do not care about the Kenyan ordinary citizen. They know how punitive these tax laws are, but they are willing to introduce these tax laws by hook and crook because he is serving the interests of the president and of the executive. He lost his ground to challenge the president on tax laws, and he has already lost his legitimacy as a legislator who cared about the interest of the common mwananchi. Na sijui watu wakiingia kwa hiyo serikali hubadilika kwa nini. I don't know what changes people wakiingia kwa hiyo serikali. John Mbadi mwenye alikuwa anatutetea na anasema serikali inatufinyilia kwa hizi sheria za tax zenye ziko juu, leo hii anaongea lugha ya serikali. Leo hii anasifu serikali. Leo hii anasema tax iko sawa na tunafaa tuongeze tax. Hiyo ni maajabu. Within a period of 3 months ashabadilika, sasa anasifu serikali na anasema ongezea wa Kenya tax. Hata iaminiki. Sasa kuna mambo hapa kwa hizi tax hatuongelei. One, the KRA system is porous. We do not know for sure how much money we collect through the KRA system, because it has so many loopholes that Kenyans have been abusing to evade tax and to avoid paying tax. We need to digitize the KRA system from the county governments to the national governments so that we know for certain this is the amount of money that we are raising as a country, and we've not lost monies to tax avoidance. I mean to tax evasion. And the government has forgotten that higher taxes do not equal to higher tax revenues. Over the years, the government has been introducing new tax bills and new tax laws that have not resulted in higher tax revenues, because the government has been misadvised that for you to raise more revenue, you need to tax the people more. And that is where they are failing as a government. Somebody misadvised this government that for you to raise more revenue, you need to tax the people more. And this is a fallacy that as an economist, I see, and I can see through all that nonsense. Because the only way, tax is not the only way to raise revenue for this country. And if you overtax people, they are going to close these businesses and you are going to chase away investors, and the people that are currently running businesses are going to downsize. They are going to sack more people. They are going to fire more people. And this will increase the problem of unemployment that we have currently. So if industries and factories in this country are going to downsize, and if investors are not going to invest in this country, how will you be raising more revenue? From which population? Because these people work in these industries, they work in these factories, and these investors result directly into raising revenue for this country. So it is about time the government started rethinking on different ways and strategies on how to raise revenue. For example, we have mineral deposits in this country that we do not know their total net worth. We have never had a mineral audit in this country. There are citizens in this country that do not know we have niobium in Taita Hills. There are citizens in this country that do not know how much money we raise from soda ash in Lake Magadi. There are citizens in this country that do not know how much money, myself included, that we've raised from oil in Turkana. We have oil in Turkana that was discovered in the tenure of Uhuru Kenyatta. And a tender was issued to Talo Oil to mine that oil so that the county government of Turkana and the entire nation of Kenya benefits from that oil. To today, nobody can tell you how much revenue government has raised from Talo Oil. To today, nobody can tell you conclusively if the project of mine exploration and mining in Turkana is ongoing. Nobody can tell you what is the status quo of Talo Oil, whether it is still operating or it has gone under. Nobody can tell you that. We have limestone in this country whose net worth we are not discussing. That is a mineral we should tap. In Kitui County, where I come from, we have limestone that could last that county for 50 years. Even if all cement manufacturing companies in Kenya decided today to decamp from wherever they are mining limestone and come at Kitui County or in Kitui County, they would not be able to exhaust the limestone that is in Kitui County for 50 years. Yet, we are not discussing this. We are not prioritizing this. I mean, why has it taken so long since the inception of county governments in 2013 to get the limestone in Kitui running? And Kitui is not the only county that has limestone. That limestone is untapped wealth that could have already created employment opportunities for the citizens of Kitui County and could have already boosted revenue generation for this government. But the government is not interested in that. And they are not interested in telling you that this is the amount of mineral deposits we have and this is their net worth. Because they know once they do that, as a citizen, you will hold the government to account and you will ask the hard questions. And they are avoiding that. Nobody talks about the minerals we have in this country. There is another avenue of raising revenue this government should pursue. And this is the avenue of carbon credits. Other countries in the entire world are selling carbon credits. This country is yet to register the amount of carbon credits we have as a nation. I am not sure if we already have a registrar of carbon credits, possibly under the Ministry of Environment. And the government is not willing to publicly disclose some of these things. We need to know. We need to be made aware. The same way they communicated about the impeachment of Gachagua and on other non-critical and non-important issues. It is the same way they should communicate to us and to citizens even in the rural areas. One, what is carbon credits? Two, how can you register privately as a trader in carbon credits? The government should sensitize the public on communal, public and private trading of carbon credits, because that is an untapped source of revenue that we should be pursuing. And it is a $1 trillion industry. $1 trillion industry. And it doesn't take much to sell carbon credits. We need to talk about the registration of the private citizens into the carbon credits program. And we need to get our citizens to trade carbon credits. We are also not discussing industrialization as a means to increase and to create revenue for this government. Where I come from, we have a textile company called Kikotech that was run down by the former governor, Mama Charity Ngilu, because she was doing business with the county government. Her son was contracted to train those that were working in Kikotech, and our son was also contracted to supply the equipment and the machines needed to run Kikotech. And that information is in the public domain. I am not defaming her in whatever way. If you have this kind of public servants, this kind of state officials, this kind of government officials in almost every other office, how are we going to industrialize? How are we going to protect our industries? There is another industry called Rivertex in Eldoret. After Uhuru left power, nobody talks about Rivertex. When is the last time you heard about Rivertex? Do you know how much money Rivertex makes? There was a time in this country that we were keen on cotton growing. There was a time in this country that we were producing our own textiles. There was a time in this country that almost every county, almost every province was growing cotton. And cotton was valuable. And it was a source of revenue for so many Kenyans. There was a time we were textile, we were consuming our own textile. There was a time we had cotton processing plants that were functionable. One here at Machakos, another one I think at Eldoret, there was one at Kitui. All those factories and processing plants have been run down by the same people you've put in government. And this is not a Ruto problem. It is a problem that has been in subsequent governments. We've run down our cotton processing plants. We've stopped growing cotton in this country. How else are we going to create employment opportunities in this country if we are going to run down all industries? If we are going to steal from all industries? The government has been siphoning industries and parastatals left, right, and center from one government to the next. They are not interested in creating companies and industries that are going to benefit Kenyans and create employment for Kenyans. Instead, the government is so interested and so invested in taking Kenyans abroad. The government is popularizing this government initiative of and the entire shenanigans of taking Kenyans outside to work as watchmen, to work as security guards, to work as house helps, and other menial jobs. They are not interested in developing this country for us. How do you tell me that the government has prioritized taking citizens out of this country, which is a brain drain? This is what Kibaki was against. And this is because the government is not interested in creating employment opportunities for Kenyans here. It has already run down almost all industries we had. We have lost almost all hope in the government. And it is the first role of the government to create hope in the citizens, to make them believe that it is possible to get better. The average citizen today has given up on Kenya. The average citizen in Kenya today has given up on their MP, their MCA, their governor, their senator, and the president. They think that this country is redeemable. The average citizen has no hope for a better country. And this is because the government has failed to show citizens that they can get better. What with a government that is prioritizing affordable housing and taking Kenyans abroad? We need to start rethinking as Kenyans. We need to start pushing the government to act better, to drive better policies, and to push for a better Kenya. An industrialized country, a country that is diversifying on avenues of creating revenue, a country that is interested in creating a good economic environment for every citizen to survive in this country, a country that is interested in creating a good economic environment for industries to thrive in this country and to attract more investors. After all, if you continue with this trend, almost everyone in Kenya will be broke. You will have a low inflation, and Kenya would appear to be in good standings by statistics and good things written in the books. But the reality would be that then the common citizen will have nothing in his or her pocket. As it is today, Kenyans can barely afford basic necessities. And they're asking themselves, if we are feeling this after 2 years of Ruto's government, how will it be after 5 years? They expected that Ruto would bring sound economic policies that would steer this country into the right path, like Mwai Kibaki steered this country into the right path from 02 to 2010. But they cannot see that. They have lost hope. And In today's newspaper, there was a good and sound advice that the columnists penned to the Treasury on how the government should maximize the tax system that we have, the KRA system, to raise more revenue. One, the advice was the government should tap into the informal sector, because most people in the informal sector are not paying taxes. The second advice was the government should increase compliance with tax instead of increasing and bringing more levies and more tax laws. The advice was the government should ensure that the KRA system is efficient and transparent. And this is sound economic advice to the government. And if Mbadi is willing to listen, he's going to turn around that treasury. And we are going to see more revenue raised as a country. The advice was that cargo at the port is undervalued. There are unscrupulous business people who are undervaluing cargo through the Mombasa port so that they pay less tax. It is about time that we look into that issue of undervaluation of cargo. It was also noted that the extended tax amnesty policy that has been in extension from 2022 to 2024 is not helping the situation. Because when you increase the tax amnesty and you extend it year after year after year, you reduce the willingness to comply, to pay taxes by the corporates. Because they think in their own intuition that the government is always going to introduce tax waivers and they are never going to pay the penalties and the penalties and the tax that they are supposed to pay. It is about time that we discontinue that tax amnesty policy. It is about time that the corporates pay taxes in this country. We cannot understand how the government keeps on waiving taxes for corporates. I mean, how? Because they have the money, they can pay tax. If the government is coming for us, the common mwananchi, through punitive tax laws like the housing levy and the ride-hailing services tax, same as the digital service tax that they want to reintroduce, as well as there was this other tax they want, the internet tax that they want to introduce. If the government is willing to be this oppressive on the common mwananchi, why can't they do this to the corporates? Why can't they press the corporates harder to mint more money for this government? Because the corporates are raking in billions of profits and millions. Why are they over-targeting the common mwananchi who is already depressed, overtaxed, and hopeless?